Hello. So, there's quite a lot going on at the moment, so I thought I'd do a little video. There's quite a few planets going retrograde this week, and the first of them is Saturn, who went retrograde yesterday, the 11th. And Saturn's been in Aquarius since the 22nd of March, so it very much kind of coincides with the lockdown, the global lockdown. Saturn being, government, authority, control, um, limitations, and Aquarius being, our liberties, our freedom, equality, humanitarian causes, the right to protest. Aquarius is very much kind of the rebel, the one who thinks outside the box and questions the rules. So there's been a kind of a, I suppose, for want of a better word, a bit of a squishing of people's kind of freedom during this time. It's no coincidence that Saturn went into Aquarius at this time. So what we have now is until, let me just check the date, until the 29th of September, Saturn is going to be going backwards. Well, not literally backwards, but it'll seemingly be going backwards. And so whenever a planet goes backwards, it kind of gives us a chance to go back over old ground. So we can go back over what has happened since, Saturn's been in Aquarius. And it can be a kind of a chance to, reassess, to look at the implications of what's happened, to look at the pros and cons of all that has happened since then. Um, yeah, so I'm not going to go too much into it because there's quite a lot to cover today, but that's something to kind of contemplate, that there it could also be a literal easing of the lockdown, so to speak, as well. Saturn does go into Capricorn on the 1st of July, and there's a lot going on around the 1st of July that is of quite considerable importance. So I think that's a kind of a date to look at, but I'm not concentrating on that right now. Um, so we also have Pallas Athena in Aquarius, and she's going to go retrograde on the 17th of May. She went into Aquarius on the 30th of April, sorry. And she is kind of like the goddess of kind of, I suppose she's like a amazing spiritual, I mean not spiritual, military strategist. She's a warrior, she's a female warrior, but she is not interested in war for war's sake. And so when she's, wherever she is, there's a considerable amount of kind of creative intelligence. She's kind of a master strategist. um, Wherever she is in the chart or in the sign, it's kind of like there's a sense of like, what are you willing to fight for? So she has been in Capricorn for quite a long time and has just gone into Aquarius. So it's switching her kind of the focus, I suppose, from all things Capricorn, which is more governmental control, organizations, the corporations and things like that, society, and has moved into Aquarius. And in Aquarius, then there's more of the chance of the strategy, more kind of strategy going to, maybe the protests that we've been seeing around the globe. Um, and also, putting her kind of creative intelligence into kind of trying to figure out um, how to make the best of this, kind of maybe grassroots kind of organizations like defending humanitarian causes and things like that. More all things Aquarius, basically, which is, the revolutionary, the rebel, the one that looks outside of the box, the one that kind of has a vision for a better future. So it's quite good when you've got Pallas Athena on your side in this situation. She is going backwards again, like retrograde, on the 17th of May. And so she'll go back into Capricorn on the 3rd of June. So she's not going to be here for long this time, but she will be back. Then we have Venus going retrograde. And I feel that this is quite an important one. And on exactly the same day as Venus goes retrograde, Mars slips out of Aquarius into Pisces. And I think that this is an important shift, I think, and very important. It has an important message, I think, as well. because Venus going retrograde in Gemini gives us a feeling of kind of going back over things, going back over the way we're relating with each other. We currently have Jupiter and Pluto traveling around together. They're not in exact conjunction anymore, but they will be again, and they are very much together at the moment. Jupiter is our beliefs and the search for the truth, amongst other things, the preacher, as well. And Pluto is, power and the desire to kind of look under the surface. It's also our subconscious compulsions, how we're kind of ruled by something that's kind of that we're not aware of sometimes. And you put the two of them together, and you have the chance for some very strong, powerful views and opinions to be aired, and people kind of becoming a little bit nasty over their opinions and beliefs, for kind of almost like rage coming up over beliefs, and people getting very much triggered for kind of what they believe. And this is quite evident at the moment, is that there seems to be quite a polarization, or a kind of a divisiveness around people's beliefs. And I think it's important to remember that we're all in this together, and everybody wants the best for their loved ones, for the world. And I think Venus going retrograde in Gemini could give us a chance to like look at ourselves, look at how we are relating to each other, how we're communicating, kind of reassess that. It's possible with Venus in retrograde that people from our past could come back into our lives for whatever reason as well. That there's that as well. But this is a kind of a looking back and a kind of a rethink. Um, how can we relate to each other with kindness? How can we communicate with each other with kindness? And I think that's very important at the moment. So that it could also be a reassessment of our values as well, because Venus is our values. And that has definitely been going on in this while, because of everything that's been going on. I think everybody's going through a bit of a look at what really holds meaning in our lives. So Venus will be retrograde until the 24th of June. And then we also, at the same time, as I mentioned, have Mars going into Pisces. And Mars has been in Aquarius for the past month or so. And Aquarius is the rebel, the revolutionary. So Mars, the warrior, has been, fighting for our rights, fighting for civil liberties, um, but also means that probably people have been getting quite het up about it as well. And the kind of the with Pluto and Jupiter as well, it's like the passion are kind of riding high, at the moment. And beliefs aren't just beliefs, and opinions aren't just opinions. It's almost like a life or death kind of matter. um, and this is partly because all of this Capricorn, there's a lot of fear rolling around, and I think that fear can be quite divisive. um, so I think with Mars in Pisces, the Pisces is the planet of, I mean, the sign of, unconditional love, of spirituality, of oneness, of unity, of sensitivity, compassion. And Mars, the warrior, being in there is really kind of, it should kind of, hopefully, calm people down a little bit, and allow us to kind of, be a bit more mindful maybe about how we're asserting ourselves, and combining that with Venus in retrograde. So yeah, I think that this could be quite a lovely moment for humanity, in a lot of ways, with Mars going. It's quite a big shift from the rebel revolutionary, and Mars being the way we anger, the way we assert ourselves, and so and the way we act, and our kind of desires. And maybe there'll be a little bit more of a desire for unity instead of this divisiveness, and a desire for kind of, more unconditional love, and remembering that we're all in this together ultimately, and everybody wants the best, and everybody's trying to find the truth, and it's hard to find the truth at the moment, you know. Nobody, I don't think, is really quite sure of exactly what it is. And so I think with Jupiter's also about to go retrograde as well. That will be the 15th of May until the 13th of September. And so a lot going retrograde this week. And so um, with Jupiter going retrograde, it could, you know, be an opportunity to go back in and try and seek out the truth, and also to maybe, reassess our beliefs and be willing to admit that we're wrong if we're wrong, and to the willingness to admit that other people might have an opinion or a belief that might be kind of relevant or important. um, yeah. So Jupiter and Pluto are also kind of traveling backwards together or retrograde together. And so there is a kind of a desire to Pluto kind of go into the underworld and find, dig beneath the surface and see what might be lurking there in terms of where the truth does lie. Um, I think I think ultimately, I think the message though of this week, or the kind of the big shift, feels like a shift towards more kindness to each other. I think if there's any reason I came on here today to do this, it's because of that. Um, be kind to each other, and yeah, it's really important that we don't kind of all um, fall apart at this moment.